Hey everyone, Aaron Stewart from the Little Black Couch, here to talk a little bit more about entrepreneurship and the journey and things that we need to worry about and think about to just make sure that we get it done. I believe everybody should be an entrepreneur or at least practice it a little bit in their lives, whether it's to learn new skills, whether it's to bring in a little extra cash, whatever it is. Entrepreneurship is an amazing way to live a better life and to learn more. And my background, as many of you know, is in 30 years or so, almost 30 years exactly, of doing research in entrepreneurship and earning a degree in entrepreneurship, a doctorate, and as well as doing entrepreneurship for the last 20 years of my life. And so I wanted to get to a point where I could share and offer some counsel, I guess, to make this journey a little bit easier for those that come behind me, which is kind of the point of not only academia. We always talk about when we're doing research that we stand on the shoulders of the researchers that have gone before us, and that's why we cite properly and do all that. But also just to make sure that we're furthering the next generation. So this is kind of part of that. I took a long time in my life to come to this point where, one, I felt like I wanted to put myself out there because that's not a very comfortable place to be. It's a horrible place to be, actually, and talking to a little green light is a tough thing to do for me, but also to believe that this 30 years of research and experience and stuff could possibly be valuable to somebody. That was also a tough thing for me to kind of get my head around. I've really enjoyed a lot of the people that I've worked with most recently in the 2CCX group and elsewhere that have helped me to understand that any sort of advice or counsel that I've given has been helpful and has been valuable, they have been very encouraging to get me to kind of go out and do this. So I've tried to do that. I was encouraged by a coach to make sure that I documented this journey. I'm in a new phase in my career, and so as I've gone through this new phase of my career and tried to transition to most of my life in entrepreneurship has been more of a traditional business model where we talk about a product, price, place, promotion, where we talk about creating a product and taking it to the market and marketing the product and then making sure that the product that you pivot and you make sure that the product then becomes modified to what best suits the customer, but you always came up with a product first. We're now into a part of this generational switch in entrepreneurship and marketing that's gone more online. We're now, because we never had, and I think that there's been a little disagreement, not disagreement, but there's been a little misconception that somehow or another those of us that have been doing entrepreneurship for a long time are missing the boat in this new world, in this new digital world. And it's not that at all. It used to be that we would create a product and then go to the market and try to figure out how to sell it to that market. And now we're learning that most products and services that are being created now, they will actually go out and ask the market what they're looking for or do research and then take that research and create products to fit the needs of what people are asking for. So the difference between those two is the velocity of that information. Back in the old day, we didn't have Google AdWords, and we didn't have Google results, and we didn't have, and it's not that the search engines and going and searching for something that is all that important on the side of it, but it's the data that's coming back to us from it. So we can do real-time research now and get all that information back instantly. So then we can go out and create a product. And we do have the tools and the technology to then create, especially info products, on the fly. We have the technology to do that. We didn't have it back in the day. Okay, so it's a totally different world, and it's one where people like me have had to make quite an adjustment. I mean, here I am broadcasting live on Facebook, for heaven's sakes. I mean, give me a break, right? And I've got automation set up now, which were preposterous back in the day. But I have an automation set up that will take this video cast, it will spit out the MP3 audio version of it, and that will be uploaded to my podcast. And then that podcast will be created an audio version and put into YouTube. And then this will be on Facebook, obviously, but when I get done here, it automatically gets uploaded to our YouTube channel, which is crazy, right? I mean, to be able to do that many things and not lay a hand on it is, I mean, to somebody like me who used to have to do it all themselves, it's remarkable. It's a miracle. It's a freaking miracle right now, and the times that we live in, that you can do this kind of stuff. And as an entrepreneur, to be able to automate and create routines and all that is such a blessing. The ability to do so much more with less, that requires less of our time, is amazing. It's an exciting time to be an entrepreneur. And I am loving learning how to leverage all these new technologies to do so much more in a day than I used to do, or could do, frankly. But that's definitely one of these things that's different. That the velocity of information when learning a market now comes back so quickly that we can then make an adjustment to the needs of the market much more quickly. And now we have the tools and the technology to help us make those changes to our products more quickly. We can change offers more quickly, right? It used to be so arduous to go on and change your shopping cart. And even before then, it used to be so arduous to run around your little mom pop store and restamp everything with a new price. So it's a different world. I really have a hard time when digital marketers try to compare how we did business back in the day to today and how off we were. And it's not the same thing. We did it exactly the most efficient way we could back in the day. We created a product based on what we thought the needs of the market were, because there was no efficient way to go out to the market and get all that data back. So we did the best we could. Okay. So I have kind of a story with that, and it goes back a while back. But this kind of gives us an idea of how this process now happens. And it was one of the first times that I didn't realize it until right recently that it had gone on, but in a very different sense, and a much more a much slower progress than it can happen now. But so back in the day when we were starting a little company it was at first called Acute Transfer, and literally the whole point of this business, this was 21 years ago, okay? I created my first site back probably 23 or 4 years ago. And if I told you the company name, you can go back and take a look at it up on the Wayback Machine. It's hideous. But anyway, so I got into this business where, long story short, where we were taking audio files off cassette tapes. And I had at one point 12 stations where we would then run the cassette tapes and turn them into digital WAV files, which were massive. We didn't have compression back then. We couldn't zip them up to make any difference at all. They were just massive, huge digital files. And then we would take those files and upload them on horribly slow internet connections to a site that we had built. And then from this site, then we had trained stay-at-home moms, and we had a little team down in India that would then download these audio files, and whether it was for doctors or whether it was for the railroad industry, which we got into, they would then bring these audio files down from digital form, and they would do whatever, process the work. And then they would upload it back to our site, and we had created some place that would receive the files back so it matched up with the audio file. And then our clients could go onto the internet, which was a big deal, and have a login, right? A private login to get in and then download their material and look at it. And this was revolutionary. It sounds ridiculous now. I mean, they were completely, we literally picked up cassette tapes for a while, or had cassette tapes from all over the country sent to us, and we would then convert them. Eventually we found a compressed audio, so we would download them, compress the audio so it could be more easily uploaded to our servers. But that was the business, right? It was called Acute Transfer. It eventually morphed into Accutrans. We shortened it, and that's what it's called now. And some of the railroad clients we picked up 20 years ago are still clients today, but we've had to morph our business into different technology areas to keep the business. But anyway, that all being said, when we were trying to get a new customer, and we were trying to convince them to get off the cassette tapes because they were killing us, right? So I literally went up to the Union Pacific. So Union Pacific was a client back then. They're a railroad company. I went up to their offices here in Salt Lake City, about 40 miles north of Provo, Utah. And I went up there and I had a Palm Pilot. I had a digital recorder. I had like a GPS thing you could plug into the Palm Pilot. I had a little thing you could plug in and record. It didn't have a mic or anything on the Palm Pilot. It wasn't a phone. It was a Palm Pilot. Okay, so I had all these contraptions, and I went up there and showed them. And then, I also had a camera attachment that you could plug into this Palm Pilot. I went up there and showed them, and I can't even, I think about it now, and I can't even believe how ridiculous I must have looked. But I went up there and said, look, there's this really cool Palm Pilot, and you can plug in this camera and take pictures of, wherever we're at. If we're doing an investigation, you can take pictures and we'll save it on this thing. Okay? And then you pull this thing out and you, now it's an audio recorder and you can record on it. It records in WAV files. And then, you can take this thing out and plug in this GPS thing and it will record where you are. And then you can take all that and you can upload that to our servers from here. You don't have to send it to us anymore. You can upload it from here, and it will be amazing. What do you think about that? And I was so excited, right? This was the whole new thing. Now they didn't have to go out there with a camera and a phone. And, the cell phones were kind of big back then. They had a camera and a phone and a recorder with a cassette. Ugh. They had all these different pieces of equipment. And I'm thinking, look, you take this Palm Pilot and you take this little stack of, a GPS unit, a recorder, and a camera. That's got to be better than having a tool belt full of phones and things. But they wouldn't go for it. They looked at me like I had three heads. And it was just, I got done, so excited, so pumped, this big presentation. I felt like I nailed it. And it was crickets. Quiet. Now, the mean age in the room at the time was 50, which is super young now that I am 50. But back then, my gosh, they were dinosaurs. Right? At 30, I thought, my gosh, who am I talking to? I'm on the cutting edge of technology, and these people, are driving standard cars to work because they don't know how to drive an automatic. But anyway, I made the pitch. Nothing happened. Total crickets. I was just despondent. So we kind of sat there for a little while, sat there, and then one of them goes, well, what's that thing you've got there? And I'm like, this? Oh, this is just a Olympus digital recorder. Wow, what do you mean digital? So I had to explain to them, this records in a digital format. It doesn't record in an analog format on a cassette tape, it just records, and at this time we had to stick in our little SD discs, and I used to have one around here, but I do have this. Hold on, folks. Boom! There it is, a digital recorder. There it is. So I had something, it was bigger, it was different than this, but Olympus. And they're like, wow, well, what is that? And I said, well, it's a digital recorder. You just, you record on it, and then you can plug it in, and then the files will come down, and then you upload the audio files. And they're like, wow, that's great. We want 100 of those. Holy cow, what? So what had just happened? Well, what had happened is what kind of a lot of people talk about today, especially in this market. Stephen Larson is one who talks about this a lot today, and I've got his interview coming up soon in a video cast in a few days, and I'm going to keep calling them video casts. Okay, I don't care. Somebody want to, hashtag that, video cast? It just makes more sense to me. I don't want to call it a show. So video cast, it can be a podcast, it can be video, anyway. So they came back to me and said, you know what, that seems really interesting to us. Can you look into getting these for us? So I quickly called up Olympus. I figured out how to become a distributor, and then they started buying a bunch of these recorders from us. Well, that was great. They came up with a solution, and they presented it to me, and then I went out and figured out a way for us to make some money off doing it. And that is kind of what now we're seeing, okay? I was able to get feedback from the customer and then was able to react to that to create a system that worked for them. It worked great for us too. They started uploading their audio files from their workstations, and we had to work with their technical department out of Omaha for forever to get it to finally work. Their network was so slow and so locked down. You folks have no idea the problems that we went through in the early days to be online and to be technically advanced. You have no idea. I am an early adopter in everything that was cool that is so nerdy now, but that was what we did. We reacted to that need in a particular client, and I had to go away from my big, huge, bright idea with all the attachments in a Palm Pilot in order to get a new client that did a lot of business with us and is frankly still a client. Okay, we have made sure that we have kept that relationship up. So what I would say is dream big. It's okay to dream big. It's okay to try to come up with the next best thing. But before you go out and change your whole business in order to do it, make sure that you find if there's a market for it or not. I was fortunate enough to have brought this with me and have somebody ask me what it was, because I was prepared to walk out of that conference room just despondent and sad that I had not convinced them that a Palm Pilot and attachments was a far better way to, frankly, it was a far better way to live. I had solved their problem, but I'd solved it in a far too advanced way. And that's not what they needed at the time. Right? And now we've got phones that can do it all. Every single one of those things that I was trying to convince them to do can now be done on a phone. And any digital file that we get from them now usually comes from a phone, interestingly enough. So I was way ahead of my time, and it wasn't the right solution for where they were at the time. And that's what we need to understand. We need to understand where our clients are at that particular time, ask them questions, get the feedback, and then deliver to them what they want. And the beauty of how we can do it now is the velocity of that information is far much better. I don't have to get in a car and drive up and pitch somebody in a conference room. I can get online and ask a lot of smart people in a lot of different ways. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have a way to reach out and blast email everybody and ask a question and get feedback. But we've got it now. And so if we leverage that, we can get to the answers that we need for our own business and how we need to adjust our own business to make sure that we are addressing a client need. And once we address their exact need, the sales will come. And that's kind of the point of it all. So yes, respect the old way that we used to do it, but we did it that way because we didn't have a choice. We continue to do it a very similar way, but the velocity of information is such that we can do it more effectively, more efficiently, and then we can adjust our product mix to make sure that we are giving the client exactly what they want. And that is the coolest thing about being an entrepreneur now. So thanks for joining me on the Little Black Couch. And for those of you that are just joining us, the Little Black Couch is, I don't even know if I stick it over there. I'm going to see if I move the video over. Oh, you know what? There's our YouTube channel. Please visit us on our YouTube channel, the Little Black Couch. Just search for the Little Black Couch. These are all the video podcasts. So we've got, what do we got? 10, 13 of them up now. We've got our first video cast. This will be our second. And then also video us on our Facebook page, please. So we've got some things up there now too. So let me know how we did. And if there's any topics that you want to discuss about being a super old entrepreneur and how we did it in the old day, as opposed to how we do it in the new day, please visit us online and let us know. So I'll go back to the camera, and then I'm going to go here. Can you see it? You can't really see it still. Can I move this monitor without freaking anybody out? Oh, there it is. Okay, so stick with me, folks. I'm going to turn this light off. It makes me look white anyway. There it is, folks. This is my little black couch here. He's been with me for a long time, and it is a he. He's been with me a long time. I'll go back here now. Nobody needs to see my golfing mess. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry, folks. Getting used to the technology. But, yeah, so if I go here, and I go here, no, if I go, oh, no, this is not gone. This is not good. Oh, this is not good. All right, so here, this is not good, folks. Anyway, I will figure it out eventually. Oh, here, there it is. Sorry about that. And then we go to this one. Okay, sorry, that was fun, right? A visit, you got a view of the whole entire office. Now my monitor's screwed up. So anyway, that's the Little Black Couch. The reason why this video cast is called the Little Black Couch, or the podcast previously, is because I bought that couch from another entrepreneur about 20 years ago when we were just getting started. I had done research the previous 10 years in entrepreneurship and worked for different companies, figuring and working with different distributors who are entrepreneurs. It was fascinating. Obviously, my research is into entrepreneurs in different countries all over the world. But that Little Black Couch, I paid $200 for it about 20 years ago. So it has been with me through thick and thin, and I love it. It's not big enough where you can actually take a really good nap, but you can take like a 20-minute nap on it before something falls asleep and wakes you up. So it's the perfect power nap couch. So I sleep on it, I'll pile stuff on it. Good friends come in and talk to me about it. I've cried on it, I've prayed on it. This thing is just, it's awesome. And so now I honor it by calling this, whatever it is we're doing, this show, the Little Black Couch. A continuing journey in entrepreneurship. Thanks for joining me today live. I'll get this all up. Do I have to turn that on? Is that better? I don't know. I look pale. Can you see through me? Can you see the wall behind me? Anyway, thanks for joining me today. Until next time, please remember, an entrepreneur is somebody who gives back, who solves problems, who changes the world. Until next time, Aaron Stewart from the Little Black Couch. Thanks.